Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, and I am one of your loyal subjects. Your Majesty, as one of your loyal subjects, I was here a few years ago with my eyes filled with tears of joy when I saw the thousands upon thousands of flags waved for you at the Jubilee. It was a wonderful sight. And all those people that were there then are now behind you 100%. But they're very puzzled. They can't understand why the treaties that are going through, that are giving away our sovereignty in our country, I'm sure that you know about the intricacies of this. Very puzzled as to why you keep signing them. When we're talking amongst ourselves, we're getting people asking, what about the Royal Oath? What about that solemn oath that Her Majesty took as a coronation to uphold our Constitution? Surely this comes above any, dare I say, treasonable acts by the government and getting rid of it. There's a big question mark all around your people at this time. Last time we were threatened with that dreaded treaty, the EU treaty. You were petitioned. I know you had thousands and thousands of postcards through your letterbox, and mine was one of them. And we were promised that referendum, and now the time has come again, and now they've reneged on that promise. And we must have that referendum. This is a democracy. And the people are getting so cross, there's anger swelling up, and as I said before, there's a lot of puzzlement as to what's happening. You have very, very loyal subjects here. And we wish to remain your loyal subjects. We do not wish to be EU citizens. It's not our way. If you could find it in yourself to not sign that last treaty, to reject signing it, to refuse to sign it, you have hundreds, you have millions of your subjects behind you, 100%. And we are loyal to the Crown, to the sovereignty of this country and everything that goes with it. This is an open letter to Your Majesty. It's also a small petition. As I've gone around talking to people about this, and they've all added their voice to mine, and they've all written little letters to yourself. And we'll be extremely honoured and grateful if you would keep watching this, and you'll hear the voice of your people direct to you, spoken from the heart. Some are angry, some are loyal, some have little stories to tell, but these are your people speaking from their heart. Thank you for your time, we appreciate it, and be assured that we are loyal subjects to yourself. Thank you.
My name is Margaret Carroll. This is a letter to Your Majesty. Do you not know that your government is giving your country away against the wishes of the majority of your subjects? In your Coronation Oath, you said that you would uphold our Constitution. Please support us in our call for a democratic referendum. Our Prime Minister is not listening. You are our only hope.
Your Majesty, I remember watching you on the television when you took your Coronation Oath, and I seriously believed you. I do hope, Madam, that you will remember it when it comes to signing the latest part of the treaty that's going to take us even deeper into the European Union. You must resist that. You promised that we would be governed according to our traditional laws, and that will not happen. We're going to lose most of our rights as free Englishmen. Please don't sign it. Thank you.
Embodiment of the sovereignty of the people. And in that embodiment is the protection of the rights of the individual to determine his or her own destiny in a free country. Sadly, over the last 25 or 30 years, we've seen an erosion of that sovereignty, a decline in the constitutional rights of the individual to govern themselves, to have our own government. And we're seeing the loss of that government because of a series of treaties that have been put into place by a succession of governments and signed by yourself. I think this is very sad because you see our rights as citizens to determine our own destiny were embodied in the Declaration and Bill of Rights, signed in the 17th century and is immutable It is there as part of our Constitution. And indeed, Your Majesty, this was upheld in your Coronation Oath. I feel that in many ways your situation has been seriously compromised by ministers of the Crown who have sworn on oath as ministers of the Crown to maintain the constitutional rights of the people of this country. And so those rights have been reneged upon, and it is to the loss of the people of this land. You see, a country belongs not to a political elite, either in this country or abroad, but it belongs to the people that live here. And it's their rights to elect and to choose who shall govern them for a period of time, and for that power to be returned to the people to make another choice when their term, when their duration comes to an end. So therefore, Your Majesty, I appeal to you that should this sixth treaty, currently under debate, go through Parliament, if we don't have a referendum and it's imposed upon us, I would appeal to you to consider very seriously whether you ought to sign it. And I know that would create and cause a constitutional crisis. But you see, once that treaty goes through, we have lost this country as an independent nation state, and we shall be exposed to all the risks of a single superstate, a collective state governed and ruled by an undemocratic bureaucracy. And the doors of tyranny will be opened, and that is far, far more dangerous, potentially, for Europe than any situation that has occurred in the previous century. Your Majesty, I thank you for listening to us.
I'm speaking to you from my heart as a British subject of yours. I believe that you're the only person that can save us from total integration with Europe and also our royal family. Can you please look back to the other Queen Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth of Her. She fought hard for her country, and I beg you to do the same.
Hello, my name is Gerard Batten. I'm the UK Independence Party member of the European Parliament for London. I've just done a study on how much the European Union costs Britain. This is £100,000 in cash. This is what it looks like. This is what the EU costs Britain every minute, every day. It's a terrific waste of money. But much worse than that, we are losing the right to govern ourselves. 80% of our laws are now made by the European Union. We want our country back. It doesn't belong to the politicians, it belongs to the people of this country and our sovereign, the Queen. We want a referendum on the EU treaty so that we can decide whether we want it or not. Please give us a referendum.
Ma'am, I'm one of your loyal subjects, and I don't want to see our sovereignty lost. Please don't let us see the deaths of all the people who have died fighting for our freedom, all going down the swallow. Please, please, sort thou government out and use what powers you have left to bring our country back into independence, free from Europe.
Good morning, Your Majesty. My name is Mark Wallace. I'm the campaign manager of the Freedom Association, which is a non-partisan pressure group campaigning for freedom, for the promotion of freedom and the defence of freedom in Britain. And my message to you would be, firstly, how loyal we and so many members of your public still remain to you and the institution of the British monarchy that for so many centuries has, within the Constitution, protected freedom in these islands. And I'd also like to express the concern so many millions of people around the country feel that our sovereignty and our freedom and our liberty is being eroded by some of the acts that are passing through Parliament, and even more so by some of the treaties that are being signed up to by our great country. As we've seen over the last 30 years of European Union membership, we've seen our sovereignty eroded to the extent that about 75% of our laws are now made in Brussels. And we've also reached the point where people have noticed, even if they don't know why, they've noticed that it's not really worth voting for their MPs all the time. Because they think, well, nothing ever changes, nothing that we want ever happens. And the reason for that is our MPs control so few of our laws anymore. If we want to help our own economy, if we want to help our own freedoms and liberties, and also if we want to help the freedom, liberty and the well-being and wealth of people around the world, we have to leave the European Union and free ourselves. Thank you.
Now is the time for all good monarchs to come to the aid of the country.
One of the biggest issues and puzzles to me at the moment is in the context of the proposal for adopting an EU constitution, which they are calling a treaty, is the position of our sovereign lady in all of this. Under our ancient constitution, about which she took an oath to preserve at her coronation, it is she pledges to, under God, to support the sovereignty of the nation, comprising herself as the titular head, the monarch, her parliament, the Lords and the Commons, and the people. Now the people are clearly expressing a reluctance, a deep reluctance, to hand over that sovereignty to an unelected bureaucracy in the EU. And what puzzles me is that the sovereign seems not able or not interested or not prepared to enter into that issue and honour her coronation oath to preserve and protect the peoples of this country from government, from foreign government, or government by a foreign body. And I would very much like to see a sovereign initiative to do that, and to the exercise of her royal prerogative, her power granted to her from the people to protect us against a foreign government.
Your Majesty, as a very dedicated subject of yours, note not an EU citizen, I beg of you, as a committed patriot of this country, born and bred in this wonderful country of ours, not to sign any more EU treaties. Please don't sign your own death warrant. Thank you very much.
A Royal Engineer who worked his way up from a sapper to a warrant officer and then received your commission. I am really concerned about the way the governments of this country are treasonously handing us over to the European Union. I took a vow to Queen and country, and I am so disillusioned with every government since Ted Heath, who has took us further and further down the road of handing over control of Britain to the European Union. Please ask your son and the rest of your family to back us in standing up against this handing over not only of the control of Britain but also erosion of your status as the Queen of the United Kingdom. About this treasonous behaviour of our governments. Please back us, please lead us as you promised in your oath to lead the people. Thank you.
Treaty is as close to the European Constitution as makes no difference. We've been promised a referendum on the European Treaty. We must have one.
Many years, may I implore you not to give your royal assent to any treaty that makes us a vassal state within the European Union. Thank you.
I implore you, Your Majesty, for the sake of the children whose headmistress I am, and for future generations, to retain the sovereignty of our great nation so that we can remain loyal to you and not to Brussels.
To you as a Christian and someone who lives in the United Kingdom, in 1953 you pledged an oath at the Coronation to uphold the Constitution of the United Kingdom. In my opinion, by giving royal assent to 5 EU treaties, you have acted against the Constitution. Your government ministers, since 1972, have also committed treason. I ask that you, as a Christian, uphold your coronation oaths that you swore in God's name. Thank you.
Subject of Your Majesty, I am not a European citizen. I beg you, do not sign the document that ratifies the European Treaty.
I'm a member of UKIP and I'm a devoted royalist, have been for many years, and my family. My father was in a fighter squadron, my uncle in a bomber squadron, and we all did that for England and for you, our Queen. You took a coronation oath which we're 100% behind. We don't understand why you're being placed in a corner behind the dictates of an undemocratic European Union. We love Europe, we embrace Europe, but not a dictate in Brussels. Please help us, ma'am. We mean it and we need your help.
You, not the Prime Minister, are our head of state. You are our last hope. We cannot trust our politicians. They are all, except for the UK Independence Party, dedicated to the systematic destruction of our once great country. The people want to withdraw from the EU, but the politicians who are supposed to represent us won't listen to us. Democracy is dead. Please help us.
Good morning, Your Majesty. I speak as an 80-year-old citizen of this country, profoundly patriotic until recently, also a lifelong monarchist, and I have to say that I'm extremely disappointed that you, when you had the chance to veto the Treaty of Nice and were asked to do so, you didn't do so. And I think that your coronation oath to uphold the liberties of your people required you to stand out for us. We know that there are a vast majority of the people in this country who do not vote for the public, even less, perhaps not less, but even more, we do not want to be members of the European Union. We are being subjected to domination by unelected bureaucrats in Brussels and Strasbourg. We put far too much money into the European Union, for which we get very little return, and we frankly should come out of it. But as a first stage, I think this so-called treaty, which is in effect, as all European leaders, apart from our own government, quite openly say, is the old constitution rejected by the French and Dutch 2 years ago, is the same thing. It will profoundly affect our rights and liberties and our ability to govern ourselves. And I do think, as a constitutional monarch, you have the right to reject it and to refuse to authorise it or to ratify it. I hope you will, because I do feel that if you don't, you will lose a lot of support of people like myself, and that would be a tragedy. Thank you.
Majesties, with respect, remember your oath of allegiance. You are my sovereign, and my loyalty is to you, not to a European government. And I beg you, please do not sign the Constitution.
My father gave his life for our country, and if by signing this treaty you will let the fascists gain their original objective, please do not sign it.
To ask you why it is that the gentleman's agreement that allows the City of London Corporation to rule the financial system across the whole world is not due for some kind of review and some kind of decision as to whether or not this agreement, this gentleman's agreement that allows them to control things the way they do, is eligible for some kind of review and some kind of the change that everybody tells us we should have if we're going to enter the modern world in the 21st century.
May it please Your Majesty to explain to her subjects why she has sworn an oath at coronation which she is now disregarding by putting her signature to Acts of Parliament which purport to cede the sovereignty of some or all of her subjects to a foreign organisation known as the European Union.
Constitution. I feel that if your government is suggesting that we should change the Constitution, that the people should be asked. And if they're not doing that, then there should be a referendum, and that you should be the one, if the government is refusing it, to demand that the people should be heard. I think it's your duty. Thank you very much.
Your Majesty, I am a subject and not a citizen.
Dear ma'am, please don't sign away the rest of our sovereignty by signing this constitutional treaty.
Who has fought for your country. It disgraces me the way your government is really treacherous to the realm and this country, especially its military personnel. you are losing control of your country because we're just giving it away to Europe. And whether you can do anything about it or not, your ancestors would have sent a lot of these politicians to the Tower. And I think you ought to take a leaf out of Queen Elizabeth I's own book, because it's just going down the drain.
Today, because I love my Queen, I love my country, I'm what you call a true patriot. I don't want to see a German admiral as First Sea Lord in the Admiralty. I don't want to see a French general commanding the British Army. I don't want to see an Italian marshal commanding the Royal Air Force. I don't want to see a Polish chief constable in one of the counties where I live. That is the bottom line. Europe, it's one big, what shall I say, treacherous black hole. Millions of pounds are being squandered every day. Joe Public doesn't know. He just doesn't know, and we've got to tell him what it's all about. Tell him about the treachery of Europe, and that's why I'm here today, a true patriot, with all my colleagues from UKIP.
Time for all good monarchs to come to the aid of the country.
Please do not sign the new Reform Treaty. I know you have the right to sign it on the advice of your ministers, but your ministers are traitors to this country and they'll give it away. Please, I implore you, do not sign this treaty. Thank you very much.
From who is the Executive Chairman of Young Independents, and I would like to ask you to not sign away our powers to the EU Treaty. We're loyal to you as citizens of the Crown, and we ask that you keep British law for British people. Thank you.
Your Majesty, your petitioners are sending a petition which says that in 1975 the British people, in a referendum, agreed to join a common market, a group of equal and free European nations, trading together without barriers and tariffs. By default, the British people have, without their consent, become citizens of the European superstate, run by a non-elected bureaucratic commission in Brussels. This foreign power has suborned our legal system and the authority of our Parliament.
Your Majesty, I've written to you recently about the destruction of the family within your country by social services and other agencies. The old country, as we know, is being hollowed out and destroyed, ready to be taken in within the EU Soviet. We, as your subjects, wait to hear from you and to get guidance from you so that we can take a positive action to stop what is happening to our country, i.e. it's being destroyed. And we want to remain a United Kingdom, a Great Britain and an England. Thank you.
Your Majesty, we very much hope that you will consider saving this country and its liberties and freedoms and the democracy that we have had up to this point in this time of considerable peril in those things by the imposition of the European Constitution without any reference to the people of this country, and solely done by politicians. Thank you.
Your Majesty, how can it be that foreign powers are taking over yours and my country, and that your loyal subjects will soon have no more rights than a Soviet citizen? You must know what is happening. Is there no chance that you could intervene to stop these dark forces? We will all be 100% behind you.
Your Majesty, please, please help us.
So, Your Majesty, that's just a small selection of your people speaking from their hearts of what they feel the need to say to you. Every one of those represents at least 1,000 or more other people who can't get in front of my camera. Please take note of what was said, and please take it that for sure we are 100% behind you. If you're 100% behind us, we're there for you. And what more can I say? This letter comes to you with a lot of affection and love, and I'll sign it. Yours.